my conviction in Tesla has moved way beyond just cars and then way beyond just robo-taxi, and it really is the bot. But I held it from 2013 all the way to 2018, 2019 when it just did nothing. That's so for people who have been holding it as long as I have, I've been through this before. We have seen the stock do nothing. I personally am not expecting the stock to rise this year because of robotaxi. And in fact, I think it's going to rise at the end of this year because of robots, not robotaxi.
A lot of my friends and family, they go like, "Oh, PE is like, oh, it's too expensive," and I'm just like, you don't get it. They're not a mature company. They're not Coca-Cola that you can just slap on a reasonable PE. This is a company that's creating industries. You simply cannot value that with a PE.
The humanoid bot opportunity is the single largest opportunity that's ever happened in history, and it's happening in your lifetime at this time right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we finally did it. We've got the one and only Herbert on the channel. Thanks a lot, Herbert, for coming on. It was a long time coming for this. And thank goodness, finally. Sheesh, thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you, Pejjy. I know it's been a while. We've been communicating and we finally did it, but thank you for inviting me. I appreciate this so much.
Yep. Yeah, pleasure. I mean, if you don't know who Herbert is and you're following Tesla, then I don't know where you get, I don't know what you're doing. I'm a follower of his channel and X as well. His links is in the description. I recommend you guys to follow him. He does amazing interviews with awesome, CEO of Figure and then top executives of hedge funds. Amazing interviews, man. I love it. Really gives a good deep dive knowledge of Tesla investment, mainly surrounding Tesla and the businesses that it's creating, because we do know that Tesla will become the world's most valuable company sometime within the next 5 to 10, 15 years. So especially with a leader with Elon Musk, of course, that adds on a lot of cherry on top. But I highly do recommend you guys to follow him. And, and recently you just hit 100,000 subscribers. Finally, that took a long time, man. But
Thank you.
Finally, you hit. Did you get that play button yet? I don't see it on your wall.
There you go. You see it right there?
oh, there it is. There we go. Yeah, no, well deserved. And you should have got it much sooner. Much sooner. Sheesh. But no, appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. I know you have a very busy schedule interviewing people. And, for this podcast or interview, it's time for me to interview you. Because you interview so many people. Before we get into the meat stuff and all that kind of stuff, I learned that Herbert, he is a fellow Canadian. So I'm from Toronto, he's from Vancouver, and you're residing in Seattle. But I'm curious, why did you, I mean, I think I would know why, but like what made you go from Vancouver to Seattle?
Yeah. Okay. So I love technology. Absolutely, just fell in love with tech and wanted to be part of this the .com boom, if you remember that. So in the 1999, maybe you don't, you're young enough.
Yeah.
Year 2000, there was a .com boom. You had to be in the U.S. And so I moved to San Diego in California, and had to move in 2000. Did that, worked for a .com company. Almost made it massively big because at the time, all these companies were just going skyrocketing, and we were about to go IPO in 3 months. And then, of course, the .com crash happened. So that's what made us move to the US, San Diego, moved back briefly into Canada, and then came back to Seattle because it's like an hour away from Vancouver where I live. So, just the US is, and I'm a dual citizen, is the place for technology. It's the, everything about business models and startups. That is what I'm all about. And this is what's happening here. So I'm very, very excited about it. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy because I work here in Kuwait. So I only visit Canada during the summers. And for the past 3 summers that I visited back home, it doesn't feel like home. I don't know what has happened at least in Toronto. Things are not, now I know we have an election coming up. Hopefully, the Liberals don't get elected. But anyways, I have been eyeing the US as well, mainly in Texas, but I don't know. I have to visit it first. I'm thinking to visit sometime in July to see what's going on, or maybe in August, see what's going on in Texas in Austin, when they, especially when they when Tesla releases their unsupervised FSD with the cyber cab and everything. I'm very curious to see how that's gonna be. And I don't know. Overall, it's just I'm seeing, I don't know, the US, and like in terms of housing. I know Vancouver is much worse than Toronto, but in Toronto, it's like what an apartment is like 700,000 Canadian dollars, which is like $500,000 US dollars. And I'm just like, with that money, you can get a very nice home in like Texas or even Florida. And I'm just like, and there's less taxes because Canada has now turned to a country of taxes, unfortunately. But that's nice though. Go in Seattle. I never been to Seattle. The only part of the US I visited was New York and New Jersey. That's it though. But that's interesting. That's very, very interesting. Knowing
Seattle has a good startup, of course. They call it mini. You got the mini Jeffs, you got the mini Bills. Like, so these are people who made really good money from Microsoft, Amazon, and they've started startups, and so there is a startup community here as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And if you wanna, I mean, based on the things that I'm seeing, if you want to like be part of a startup or a company, the US is the place to be. So,
nice,
wow, that's especially with Trump now. Oh man, what he's doing is amazing for the US. Flipping amazing. Any plans to go back to Vancouver, or you're good to go in Seattle?
Probably in the future, but like you said, maybe even move around. And I'm at this stage in my life right now that I may actually do 6 months here, 6 months there, like 6 months in Japan or something like that. But right now, Seattle's is just a place to start off with. But yeah, maybe Austin, maybe move around. Yeah.
No, that's nice. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Sheesh. Let's shift gears to Tesla now, because this is what I'm sure all the viewers are interested about this. Now, on my channel, I have a lot of new Tesla investors. Long-term investing is very important. So I'm curious to know, when did you start investing in Tesla?
I started in 2012. So,
2012.
Long time ago. Basically, at the time, I was interested in investing in electric vehicles, and there was this bus company in Vancouver, Canada, that I invested in called Ballard. They had hydrogen batteries, and they didn't do well, by the way. they didn't grow hydrogen as much as I wanted. I lost money.
When you said hydrogen as soon as I said batteries, I'm like, yeah.
So at the time, that was the only option, right? And that didn't do very well. But then Tesla comes along. I see Elon Musk. He's talking about electric vehicles. And then he said, I'm going to put in $95 million of my own money in 2012. And I realized, okay, well, struggling company, little tiny startup. Who knows if it's a succeed? But hey, if he's going to put in his money, I'll throw in some money, and I'll start to follow him. But what blew my mind was when he first described what an electric vehicle was, where it just, the pieces came together for me at the time, which was, okay, so you have electric battery, the car is faster takeoff, but without an engine, without all these parts needed, you have more crumple zone in the front. Therefore, you have, safer. It's a safer for the head-on collision. And there's no parts. And so very few parts, less service. And that just when it's like, oh my God, it sounds like one benefit after another when you change the drivetrain to electric. And so that's where it just made me realize, this is like, if this works, it's going to be very successful. So that's what I first started in 2012. And I've been just buying ever since and held it. And so you know what happened with 2012, 2013, stock tripled. And so you're feeling good about yourself. And by the way, people were like going, why didn't you buy the car? And I have a friend who bought the Model S, and he's joking around, how come you didn't buy the car? Well, I invested instead. And then, of course, when it tripled, he goes, damn it, I shouldn't have bought the car. But I held it from 2013 all the way to, 2018, 2019, when it just did nothing. That's so for people who have been holding it as long as I have, I've been through this before. We have seen the stock do nothing. But during that time, 2012, and even, decade before, I was all in on Apple. So I'm a big tech guy. I'm a big startup guy. I love businesses and startups, and that's what I studied. And I'm a product manager by background. That is what I do for 3 startups that I founded myself. And it was always Steve Jobs and Apple. Look what they're doing. Look what they're inventing and innovating. And their stock went up, and then it would crash. I would hear the thing from family and friends going, what are you doing? I'll say, hold, stay the course. stay the course. This is all noise. And of course, now we're looking back, and Apple is the largest company in the world, right?
Yeah.
One of them. They keep trading paces, $4 trillion now. And clearly the thesis of inventing the iPhone and onwards turned out to be true. So I was a big Apple and Steve Jobs fan. Then along comes Elon Musk, and he starts showing this new, electric vehicle market. And then once you realize that they are not just a one-trick pony, and they're just like Apple, where they've created a tech company and they're, rolling out one business after another, that's when you double down. And so around 2020, that's when I decided, 2022, that's when I just finally just kind of started to transfer all of my Apple into Tesla.
Ooh.
Maybe a little too early. Got caught with the fall, but it's okay. It's like at this point, I will be redeemed. And I have no doubt in my mind that in 4 or 5, years from now, that investing in Tesla will be much better investment than Apple. That's my thesis. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. The part that you said that how Amazon and Apple were very volatile back in the day, well, that's because they were innovating. That's because they were creating new markets that has never happened before, which is the exact same thing is happening with Tesla, with the robotaxi and Cybercab.
Yeah.
Once that happens, just watch what's going to happen. Like once there's actual revenue and profits from the Cybercab and from the robotaxis and then the bot later on, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing.
I invested $10,000 in Amazon, like in the 90s. And so of course it's like hundreds and hundreds of thousands at this point, right? It's like, whoa, what a great investment that was. But I refused to invest in Amazon at the time because I remember looking at the PE ratio. And at the time, the PE ratio was 170. And I'm like, I was taught, no, 15 is the right number. Like I was a newbie. I had no idea, right? Just 15 is the right number. That's a safe investment. It takes you 15 years to pay back the earnings. And then Amazon .bomb, right? Amazon was about to go under. They kept putting all their money back in. They were no profit. Well, the reason there's no profit is by design. They want to invest because they have bigger visions than just books. And they're about to reinvent e-commerce, and internet was a wave. And that thesis, of course, turned out to be correct. But it's just interesting that at the time, the PE ratio was really high. And people were like going, how crazy for you to invest in a company with a PE ratio high. Well, if it's an innovation company, the PE ratio is something that you take, it's not something to really consider at that point, because the whole point is that if they invent something and that invention turns out to be right, we're talking magnitudes. We're talking disruption of an entire industry. We're talking not just doubling or 50% growth. We're talking about 10x. So that's why the PE ratio kind of like, I've learned my lesson the other way around, right? Which is like, ignore the PE ratio if you're talking about an innovation company. Yeah.
Thank you for explaining it so clearly. Oh my God. Like the amount of comments that I get, and a lot of my friends and family, they go like, oh, PE is like, it's too expensive. And I'm just like, you don't get it. They're not a mature company. They're not Coca-Cola that you can just slap on a reasonable PE. This is a company that's creating industries. You simply cannot value that with a PE.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But the way you explained it was absolutely perfect. And I hope the viewers can just take note of that. Companies like Tesla that are creating industries, the PEs do not matter.
Yep.
It's as simple as that. But the question here is, so you bought in 2012 and you said you just bought and held. Did you sell a single share? I know you said 2018, 2019.
We did.
Oh, you sold some.
I did sell shares, unfortunately, because in 2015 I started a startup. In 2018, it was about to go. The world was about to crash. The financial crisis happened, and so we had to sell shares at that point to have cash. So if I didn't do that, it'd be a different story. But it's okay. I still, believed in the company. I still think it's going to go really well, and I've been adding and switching all of my investments into Tesla as much as I can. So
looks like you're just like what this poster says up here, going all in.
Going all in. When somebody says go all in, by the way, I should mention that, because that that term means a lot to a lot. It's a different term than most people think. So, when you hear, we're all in, I'm all in, just be careful when you hear somebody say that, right? I think that all in means I still have a house, I still have cash, significant cash. I still have investments in lots of other things. Now, if you have, and even if you say you're all in, does that mean it just, to me, it means that whatever amount that I'm investing in a stock, I am all in on Tesla, meaning I'm moving all of my stock to Tesla outside of other options. But it doesn't mean that all my cash is into Tesla stock. Please understand that that's not the proper investment strategy. And also, what amount of your stock is in Tesla? It's the ones that you don't need for 3, 5, 10 years from now. If you need some that are more liquid, sure, put some in bonds, put some in stocks that are more stable, and then always have a different kind of risk profile. So it's just like, as you know, every investor is in a very different scenario. You and I are very different people at different stages of our life. And so we should have different kind of strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. So with my viewers, when I say go all in, I specifically just mean stock wise. Of course, I do have some properties outside of this as well, and cash as well. But in terms of all in, even Stephen Mark Ryan, he says he's all in, but I'm sure he has a lot of, no, he mentioned it. He has a lot of properties as well that he rents out and stuff. So when you see people online that say going all in, it's they mean their whole stock position is in whatever the heck they're investing in. For me, I just can't find, and I think for us both, I think, and I can speak for both, we can't see a better opportunity out there than Tesla at the moment. So
to clarify, what do I mean by that? Because I agree with that statement, except to clarify that I can't see a better opportunity when I want to find a company that I want to invest in that is going to 10x, 20x, or even more. If it's something that I want to grow 10%, 50%, 100%, so I would invest in Apple, for example. I think it's going to grow, but I think it's going to grow maybe 50%, maybe double. But I just can't see it 10x or 20x at this point. Versus what I used to see it, 5, 10 years ago, because I don't see them as an innovation company anymore. But so I'm not, and then I don't see that they have an AI play right now. I'm kind of waiting to see for that AI play, and you need to be an AI play now for you to see the 10x or 100x. So we'll see what they do there. But there's a lot of questions in my mind about what's going to happen to them. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go down and they're not going to go under. I just don't think they're going to grow as fast as other companies. But if you want a stable company, I've always invested in Apple, but there's other options, right? But so just want to clarify that it's like I can't see another company that's going to 10x or 20x as and I can't tell the story of how they would do it as well as I could with Tesla versus other companies.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. With Apple, you said it as well, innovation. That's always not the downside of it or the downfall of it, but eventually if you're not innovative, someone else is, and they could disrupt you very loudly, I guess is the right word, if you're not innovative. And it sucks to see that, Apple is not that innovative. The recent products that they made, like the what is it called? The Vision, I think it was. Apple Vision, that flopped. They tried to make an EV, that didn't work out either. Now they're trying to focus on, I think it's self-driving technology, which I'm just like, man, I don't know.
And bots.
And bots. Maybe bots, they will have some sort of maybe, because it looks like there's a lot of other companies coming out, and it looks like it's coming together for the competition. But I don't know. They have to figure out something on their own lane to get innovative. I don't know. That's Apple. I mean, good luck to them. Good luck to them. But I'm curious to know, when you bought Tesla in 2012, and for me, I didn't get into Tesla. I didn't start investing until 2020 when I saw positive cash flow, because the reason why I didn't invest in earlier is because I was afraid that they may go bankrupt. And that was a very scary thing in 2017, 2018. And the fact that you were in it since 2012 all the way till now, what was it like investing that early? Like, what was the narrative, the FUD, the noise? Like, how hard was it holding the stock through all that? Because at the moment there is FUD and noise, but the company is nowhere near to go bankrupt. I think there's a 0% chance for it to go bankrupt. The company is gonna be here tomorrow. But back then,
Yeah.
how was it? How was the FUD?
Yeah,
How was the noise? Like that was crazy.
you nailed it. You nailed it. It is so interesting today to look at the company objectively today, and you go look at these things that we're every month that goes by, we're closer and closer to these disruptive innovations to coming true, or getting closer and closer to them eventually coming true, right? And you can see milestone after milestone, little moves here and there to show that bots are improving, AI is improving, robotaxis about to turn the corner. And yet the company is at the strongest financial footing ever, right? 30 plus billion dollars in cash in the bank. The highly profitable company, successful products in many markets, all these things proven almost in some ways. So that's why I do find it interesting that today I look at Tesla stock as simultaneously the one that has the potential to disrupt multiple markets to 10x, 20x, at the same time as being one of the safest investments, which is odd to say, because obviously the stock can fall from 300 to 100. It's very, very volatile. You have a crazy kind of scenario when you have this CEO that's gone very much into politics, but also he's like the same person who can single-handedly, compared to any other CEO I can think of, that can break innovation and deliver on these things that used to be considered impossible to be real, but the same person is going to bring volatility and all these issues, right? Okay. But despite that, as fundamentally, the company looks very, very strong. Like you said, back then, the company could go bankrupt any moment. You didn't know whether or not the cars would be successful. But that's the kind of investor I am, though, right? I'm a startup. I'm a startup guy. I've started 3 startups. I'm very interested in startups. I look at companies. I like to get in early. And in this case, maybe too early, but I love to get into companies as early as I can and just wait it out. Because if I believe that this company, like if you get in early, there's risk and you just accept that you'll lose that money. That's fine. But if you win, it's a different kind of, like, what money are you trying to put in? Is it like, your betting money? Sure, bet it, right? But it can go down. But at the same time, if it doesn't go down, it's going to be growth. And at that stage of my life, I'm looking for growth. I'm looking for something that will 10x. Now, again, you have some money that's saved up, so you don't lose that. You have some money that's in housing and other things. And then you have some that is like, okay, I just want to get 10, 20% on this one. Then you have some that you want to bet it all. And which one do you want to do it on? You bet it on the way I look at it, by the way, it's different than most people. I look at based on market first, the team next, then the product last. Many people look at it based on the team first. Okay. But if you look at the market first, even if you have a subpar team, the company will survive and succeed. Now, it's not always true. Like look at the electric vehicle market. Electric vehicle market was brand new, opening up wide. Lots of EV makers failed. So even if you had a subpar team, you're going to fail, right? But that's a business where there's like a very low margin, very difficult to sell into cars. But in general, if you have a market that is exploding, your chances of success are much higher than if you have a great team trying to trying to hit a market that's not exploding. You can have the best team, but a market that's just not growing, they will have such a much harder time than if you have an exploding market and you have a mediocre team. Now, so that's how I look at it. So the markets are most important to me. And look at today. Look at Tesla today. They're addressing the biggest, most important markets. If you look down the list of the markets, labor's number one. Then you got energy, right? You got auto. You got AI, of course, is already surpassing all of these. And Tesla's in all of them. The only one I wish they would get into, let's say, is pharmaceutical or healthcare or something like that. You know what I mean? But they're hitting the biggest markets. They're disrupting these markets, and they're the leaders in these markets. And so it's like, gosh, that's the ones I want to go into, the ones that are just about to explode or already exploding.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. That's crazy. But at that time, when you were invested in with all the FUD and noise, what was the thing that was like holding you? Okay, maybe I should sell, maybe I shouldn't sell. Like what was that thing that kept you like,
Yeah.
no,
Nothing.
my conviction.
Nothing. Just like now, it's like maybe it's blind on my part, but just like it's like how I felt about Apple all this time, right? Good product, good company, good market. They're innovating, and then a lot of this is noise, And so at that point, yeah, Tesla could go bankrupt. But remember, I didn't feel like they were about to go bankrupt until 2018. That was when
that was a
they
scary
really
year.
had a chance to go back, because they had to triple down in investing in factories. They just turned the corner and cash flow positive. But I'm very comfortable with a company spending money, losing money, investing in the future, and watching it happen. So what kept me going was it's always product, right? So you got to look at the product. The product, again, market, team, product. Market is massive, right? Believing that electric vehicles is going to be, and of course, we turned out to be right? Every car company will need to become an electric vehicle car company. That's the thesis. Regardless of environment, this was just the fact that it's a better car. They proved it. They're succeeding. So they've got the wide open market, which is exactly what happened. The second thing is the team, right? You got Elon Musk. You have this team that's just every time you've studied the team, the company, you see that they're just delivering top-notch products, factories, everything. And then the third is the product. I mean, obviously, this is one of the best cars ever. You just drive in it and this thing is real. It's a computer on wheels. At that time, the biggest thing that everybody kept saying was, all this is just an iPad in a car. That's all it is. They stuck an iPad in a car. And that's where there's a complete disconnect. Okay. These people think that they just put an iPad in a car, and that this is a software first company, software first technology, tech first company, tech first car. And the thesis turned out to be right. So yeah, you just go back to market's growing, the team is awesome, delivering, and the product's great. Now, highly risky. They can go down any moment. They're not proven. That's what you have to wait for, and it turned out to be right. It's a good bet.
Yeah, I remember it was 2017 or 2016. I've been hearing about this Tesla first time, and one of my friends, his dad had a Model S, and he pulls up with it. I'm just like, oh, is that the Tesla? And that was the first time I've ever seen a Tesla.
Yeah,
and and at that time, 2016, right now it's 2020, 9 years ago, I was 21. So, or 20, I was 20 years old. And that was like my early years of investing, but I only invested in Canadian stocks, and I was diverse.
Yep.
So, but I was very interested in Tesla back then. And I'm just like, I would love to like invest in this, but then all the noise and FUD at that time, especially around 2017, 2018, you had Trump at, first term. Trump was, was slashing at Tesla. When you listen to some recordings back then, it was just like, it's gonna fail and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's some recordings. It was very interesting recordings, and seeing how crazy it was that Tesla was like literally days away from bankruptcy, and I'm just like, oh man. It would be sad to see.
That was real.
The company. Yeah, that was really real. And that's why I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay away. I'm gonna stay 10 foot pole away from this thing. I don't want to do anything with this. And then 2019 came, and then they start to ramp up the Model 3, and they start to sell it, and then they start to, as you said, turn the corner in terms of profits and revenues and cash flow, and the stock just went crazy. Then the COVID crash happened. Then I'm like, this is it. And that's when I started buying it.
2018 was real. That was a real. The company, even Elon himself said, we're about to, this is so bad that he tried to get the Apple CEO Tim Cook to buy it. You knew that they were about to go down.
Terrifying.
That was real. He was sleeping on what is called manufacturing hell.
Yeah.
Right. So that was absolutely very close. I just had to but at that time, even when that was happening, it was also wrapped around the financial crisis, and so the world was absolutely, about to go down anyways. Like, all of your investments was suffering big time. The country was about to get, anyways, it was it was a really bad time.
So that's crazy. And I always say that, if you ever need inspiration and you're a Tesla holder and the stock goes down, first of all, it's a very volatile stock. The stock hit an all-time high 3 months ago. Now it's down 40%. Even with the bump that we had yesterday or this past week, if you ever need inspiration on why you should hold this thing long term, again, none of the things we say is financial advice, but if you need inspiration, go back to 2017, 2018, and just see the craziness of what, because that was fundamental issues. Everything else now is just outside of Tesla's bringing it down. Like
exactly.
Like in 2022, when the stock went down in 2022, it was a Twitter thing that brought it down, and then you had the Biden thing, sure, but yeah, sure, they had to bring down prices, the margins went down, but you know, if this was only a car company and wasn't focusing on other things, then sure, that's justifiable. Tesla should not be worth as much as it was back then, or even now, but they're not. They're again creating industries that's going to be worth orders of magnitudes much more than they're going to be in the future. So if you're a new investor that you bought at the top, let's say at 480, and right now you look at your account and it's minus 40, negative 40, just know that the company is in one of the most strongest positions ever, and there's nothing really fundamentally wrong with it. In fact, we're getting a lot of good reports about the new Model Y and Model Ys being sold, and even in Europe now, sales are going up. It's just all noise. The chances of Tesla going bankrupt is, I would say, it's zero. Like I don't think
it's zero. Yeah,
I don't think there's really nothing to worry about. But yeah.
So when obviously this, especially in the last 4 years, right? Things have just been flat in terms of the stock price. And so what I've learned is, as you talk to people, when you talk to somebody and say, well, what do you think about Tesla's stock? Well, it depends on what kind of investor you are and I am. So there is traders and there's investors. And the interesting thing is that we both can be correct. Okay. So when somebody says to me, and I will say, the stock is an auto company and the interest rates are so high that nobody's going to buy cars, they're correct. And the FSD story, the autonomy story and bot story are so far away. You're correct. And that's exactly, you should take your money out and invest in something else that you think will double. And so some people took their money out and put into NVIDIA and they got lucky and NVIDIA went up. And meanwhile, Tesla is flat. Even Apple did very well. Now, then what happened? But if you're a long-term investor, you don't know if you can't time the market. And this is where if the fallacy is, people think, well, why would I keep my money? And I think it's going to, it's a flat market. Yeah, you can. You try to time it. Maybe you're lucky, maybe you're not. You invested in something else you need to time properly, by the way, whatever you choose, that's going to go up. But then the long-term investors are correct too. So if I just held my stock, despite it flat for the last 4 years, and then it eventually hits, if I'm lucky, these disruptive innovation, my thesis turns out to be right, and I see a 5x, 10x. If I look back to the time, unless I had properly sold it at the right time, bought the right thing, sold that and bought back in again, if I timed it right, you're right, I would have had more money. But even if I just do nothing, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, I'm going to look back, you can't match my returns. The person who is momentum investing can't match my returns unless they timed it perfectly right. So CERN Basher has done a lot of analysis on this. Tesla stock has skyrocketed, right? Only 42 days. If you held the stock in those 42 days, you would have seen all the benefit. But if you miss one of those days, you would not get the 10x, 100%, 1000x returns that you get now. So 100x returns that you get if you had invested. So it's just the skyrocket because of the thesis, disruptive innovation. You can't match it anyways. And so, that's why buy and hold for most investors is just the easiest, most logical thing to do. But if you think you're a good momentum investor, you can be right. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, and it's very stressful to like time the top, time the bottom, and then you have to constantly, keep your eye out. And if you're wrong, you lose the opportunity. It's too much. That's why, like us, we just buy and hold. We just, if it dips, we just buy more, and then, we just hold on to it for 5-10 years, and then, and people don't understand that when the company 2x's, 3x's, 4x's, especially with a company like Tesla or Nvidia or Palantir, these happen in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Especially with Tesla. Yeah, like from 2012 to 2019, nothing happened. Like you actually would have lost money if you would have sold for 5 years, which is just it's crazy. But then the year after,
Yeah.
18
Boom.
months after, you 10, 20 extra. It's insane. It's insane. And that's how Tesla, until there's quarterly quarterly revenue and EPS growth consistently, it's going to trade like this.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe Tesla will stay flat this year as well. Maybe, I don't know. And then maybe next year it'll go. Maybe not. Maybe it's the year after that. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But this is the attitude of Tesla. That's the attitude. That's how the stock is. It just stays flat for a long time, and then when something hits, boom, it goes. And my bet on this is the Cybercab and FSC that's about. I mean, China just launched it. Very excited to see what the numbers are going to be in terms of profits and revenue. And I do think sometime this year, in one of the quarters, Tesla is going to segregate that in their income statement, saying, software revenues or FSC, whatever revenues, profits, whatever it is. They have to, because now once that happens, and then you have the cyber cabs out, what do you think Wall Street's going to do? They're going to go like, well, I got to add this to my spreadsheet.
So I have a different opinion on this, and I've been articulating it more and more in the last week or two. Actually, the last several months. I've been saying this since January. I think I'm the only one who's been saying this, by the way, is I personally am not expecting the stock to rise this year because of robotaxi. And in fact, I think it's going to rise at the end of this year because of robots, not robotaxi. And my reasoning is that they launched robotaxi in June. You're going to see the cybercab. You're going to see this. But remember, Elon said dip toe, dip toe, dip toe. So I think they're going to be small pilots. Okay, maybe they'll have 200 cybercabs. And remember, they're not including customer-owned cars until next year, the second half of next year. And so it's going to be Tesla-owned cars. Let's say they have 1,000. That's a lot. Maybe they won't. I think at the very beginning, it's going to be hundreds. Then it'll be months later when they start growing it to 200, 300, 400. They're going to take their time. So even though they launch robotaxi, even though that analysts need to count this into their spreadsheets and all that, it's like what you see with Tom Narayan. Tom Narayan is an analyst who says, we believe that Tesla is going to solve robotaxi. And we actually include it in our analysis. But when you listen to him even more carefully, he goes, robotaxi doesn't happen until 2040. And so we add in FSD uptakes now. And so even though he says, I believe in robotaxi, they still push it out so far away that it's just tiny little numbers. And so that's what's going to happen. Yes, you're going to need to add it in, but they're going to be very, very conservative, and they won't really show the stock should jump right away. So that's my own personal kind of I'm not going to say that robotaxi this year is going to all of a sudden make the stock jump. It's not until, by the way, CERN I asked them to do this show. I asked them to do this analysis, and it was very eye-opening. I said, tell me, when did NVIDIA stock skyrocket? And NVIDIA's stock skyrocketed once they started doing quarter after quarter growth. When they started showing you my quarterly results, here's my earnings, then the next quarter it was higher, and the next quarter it was even higher and higher and higher from then on. That's when the stock skyrocketed, following the earnings growth, realizing the story of AI was real. When does that happen for Tesla? It actually happens sooner than we all think, but it's next year. Mid 2026. That's when the first quarter happens, and then the following quarters will all start rising from then on. So for me, it's like robotaxi is not enough. The numbers won't be enough this year. However, I think that the bots is easier for investors to recognize how big that market is. And once they see 1,000, Elon said a few days ago, didn't he? 5,000 bots by the end of this year. Let's say he's wrong. By the way, he's cut his numbers in half already, because he's going, we're trying to build 10 to 12, but let's say we have 5,000. Well, let's say he's wrong. He has 2,000. 2,000 bots in a factory. Now, hopefully they're all doing actual work, because they can't just be standing there. They all have to be doing work. If you see that have thousands of bots, 2,000 bots working together in a factory doing actual work, that imagery, that vision, that understanding that these bots are already doing actual work, that's, I think, going to be the thing that ignites the stock, maybe catalyst, as a catalyst to switch the narrative. I mean, you never know, right? You never know what it is. But for me, it's like, God, imagine that versus a robo taxi service. Waymo's already doing it, right? Cruise was doing it. There's robo taxi services in China, so it's almost becoming this thing where but it's like invisible, right? You see this car picking you up. It's like Uber. Yeah, it's just Uber. They're just competing with Uber, and that's what this is. And they don't think it's a massive market. They don't understand how big of a market it is. Versus, I think robots. It's like, oh my God, what is this thing doing? And it's taking over a job. And then very soon, you're going to hear, an announcement of, like huge numbers of bots being bought by real customers paying. I can't say the actual numbers, but I'm trying to be careful what I say and not say. But it's going to be mind blowing to people that this is an actual business. The per year price of that a real customer bought is so high that everybody will get shocked that this is a real business. So I think that could be the thing that really drives it, not robotaxi this year.
Wow. Well, I mean, for me, the bot is something that it's really hard for me to comprehend. Like when I sit down and do the numbers, I'm just like,
yeah.
I mean, for me, it's easier for me to calculate the robotaxis. Yes, robotaxis, it will be a slow start because, that needs a lot of work, a lot of deployment, cities, a lot of places, opposed to the bot where it can just be, massively produced much faster than a vehicle.
Right.
And placed in factories and even home. The thing with the bot, I had a big eye opener here in Kuwait we have maids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for the past, I think it was since 2 years or 3 years, my parents decided to get a maid. So okay, cool. So we got a maid, and this maid, what she does is she cooks, she cleans, she does the laundry, she does the bed, she cleans the house. And it's just like, at the end of the day, it's like, man, I have so much time on my hands. How, what am I going to do? And then I'm just like, wait a minute. Isn't this the purpose of the bots at home? Because in Canada or Western countries, you can't bring your maid. Such a thing doesn't exist. You have to pay them as a regular employee, which is just a lot of money. So now imagine you have your own personal bot. And I'm just like, okay, now I see much more clearer that once people realize that this bot can actually become a big help at home, cleaning dishes, laundry, whatever, why wouldn't anybody want one? Like this thought opened up a whole new world for me, and I'm just
it's so just to be clear though, that's the future, right? For a bot to be able to wash dishes is a lot. You're asking a lot of in hardware and in software leaps that they can't be done today. However, today, bots already bought today, working in factories today, humanoid bots doing pick and place. So then the question is, how many pick and place jobs are there? How big of a market is that? And it's pretty big. So just pick and place, which bots can do now, it's going to be like 5 to 10 million bots can be sold in companies today just doing pick and place. So you can already sell, think about that, millions of bots just to do that one job. Now, by the time you are able to create millions of bots, then you're ready to go to the 5 or 10 million bots per year. You need to now have another skill set beyond pick and place, probably not yet the ability to wash dishes, but something the next thing that's easier done, next step up. That's got a massive market for that. So I think that there's as fast as companies are able to build bots, they will find use cases for them, but it won't yet be this thing where homes are, that's not coming for a long time. Let's say 5 years. Could be even sooner, but let's say 5 years. But in the meantime, Tesla will be selling millions of bots just doing factory work, and the impact to the company doesn't change. Like if you look at CERN's, trillions of dollars of market cap change, it's all still going to happen regardless of that. So that's my opinion. That's my feeling. Whereas I just spoke to ARK Invest and Sam Kors, and they're a little more cautious. They think that it's going to take a lot more time before a bot can do anything beyond pick and place. And that's fair. That's absolutely fair. I'm just saying that even if it's just pick and place, we're talking tens of millions of bots already anyways. So I don't see it slowing them down.
How much do you want to bet that the Tesla has lent out a Tesla bot to Kim Kardashian to test it out at home?
It is curious that she did
Yeah.
that thing, and I think that obviously the Cybertruck was being attacked, and I think she did that. But yeah, there seems to be some sort of relationship between Tesla and Kim,
Yes.
and asking her
Yes.
to showcase these bots and showcase the Cybercaps. I mean, she has what, 350 million? What is it? How many followers? There's 35 million. I don't know.
That's a
Some
lot.
massive
Yeah, it's a
number.
lot of million
Like one of the
followers.
largest. So, yeah, for sure. I think I think Elon. What did he just say? Right, just a week ago, he said that employees will be the first to try out the bots.
Yeah.
He didn't say when, but he did say that next year we will start to sell this outside of Tesla. And that's an indicator right there that pick and place. There's only so much that Tesla's factories can do. Let's say each of them can do maximum 5,000 per factory. In fact, one time, Tom Jew came up and he did a presentation and he said, imagine when we have 5,000 bots in Giga Mexico, 5,000 employees and 5,000 bots. So let's say there's 5,000 bots per factory. Let's say there's 5 factories, that's 25,000. That's all they can really do. And then the rest they want to sell. So somewhere in the middle, half next year, they'll sell to other companies. That's why I'm thinking it's pick and place, right? And then, but yeah, Kim Kardashian can market the hell out of this. Yeah. I don't think there will be an issue with demand.
Yeah, I personally think that she has it. Like they gave her the bot at her place because it doesn't make sense to keep borrowing it. But it just it doesn't make sense for her to keep borrowing it. I think they actually allowed her to take the bot home, maybe for exercises, not that type of exercise, but just like doing chores and stuff.
They're not ready. No, I don't think that's the case. Yeah, these bots are nowhere near ready. When you're seeing these demos, they're demos. These are demos that are done very carefully. They're not yet ready for prime time use. And whenever you see a company showing you the bots in our home now and look what they're doing, it's all carefully choreographed. That's why I'm saying that these bots can do pick and place in a very, like Figure is able to do it in a BMW environment. Aptronic is in Mercedes. Tesla is doing their thing, and it's all pick and place right now. That for sure is happening. Anything else, it's all demos.
Yeah. So you mentioned you mentioned Figure. I know you interviewed the CEO of Figure. So like when you interviewed him, what was his vision? Or what was the company's like at the moment? I know they're selling it to BMWs and such.
Yeah.
But like, how was their? I think what I'm trying to say is like, how was their manufacturing? Were they scaling up? Was there interest? Was there actual companies coming? And again, the bot is something for me that I can't really comprehend. I'm slowly understanding it, but like, what was his comment on that? And again, Figure's bot, I assume they're not intelligent. I think they're just normal bots compared to. They are. Okay.
Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
So first of all, I've interviewed 13 CEOs of all the leading humanoid bot companies out there. Humanoid bots is the market to be in. It's the single largest market that's ever been done before. It's like, $44 trillion labor market is so big. So the race is on, and Figure has raised, I think they're about to announce the next raise now, which is going to be in billions of dollars. They've already raised 675 million last year. So they're one of the ones with the most money being raised, even more so than all the Chinese bot companies out there combined. So these bots are, so at the time that I interviewed him, they were about to launch 3 factories that they just moved in a couple weeks ago. And they moved in and they're going to build their own. They're creating their own. But at the factory I went into, they actually were hand producing all the parts themselves. So he follows what Elon is doing, which is vertically integrated, creating as much as he can, buying whatever parts he does. He has a partnership with NVIDIA, they have and then they had a partnership with OpenAI for the brains. And they were touting that for the longest time. And then they let go of OpenAI, because OpenAI announced that they're going to get into humanoid bots themselves, LLMs becoming a commodity. And then it turned out that Figure can just take what's off the shelf out there and use that to train the bots. So one thing that happened in the last year is that it became pretty obvious, not just with Figure and Tesla, but general humanoid, the general, not just humanoid, but all the robotics industry, is that autonomy is a lot easier than they thought. It turned out that there's 3 PhD students that was able to show just by teleoperating a bot 500 times to do a certain task. Let's say going to the elevator and pressing the button, or another task was grabbing chairs and pushing them back into their place. These are examples of tasks they taught 500 times teleoperated. The bot can redo that autonomously, 85% accuracy rate. So
that's crazy.
Everybody was shocked at how much easier than everybody realized that autonomy works, and that using the LLM tech can teach these bots to do these things. And so they're using that, and they're creating their own bots. But the key thing is customers. And so not only did they already announce the BMW, they did a pilot with BMW, but in January, BMW said the pilot's done, but we're actually buying the bots, and they're already doing work now permanently. This is no longer a pilot. They're now replacing employees, and they were paying money to figure. So that, and then they've been approached by almost every Fortune 500 company, Fortune 50 company. So that part about every single company approaching these bot companies is true. I've heard that from many of the CEOs. This is not just a dream of the future. They're all vying to have it now. And the reason is, you can imagine what would happen if Walmart secures the first, 5,000 bots from Tesla or whoever. And then Target is not, but they keep asking, but then they go, yeah, we'll get it to you, but it will be 3 years from now. What happens to Walmart when they've got 5,000 bots? Are they able to dramatically change their business and actually just completely compete to the point that you're in big trouble if you don't have bots? Yeah. So they're all racing. The companies are buying it. They're now showing that they're doing useful work today. It's very successful.
That's crazy. Oh, wow. And based on all this, I think that's your main conviction towards Tesla. The reason why that's your main
I've
conviction.
invested in multiple humanoid bot companies, not just Tesla. But the only company that you can invest in if you believe in a humanoid bot thesis easily for a normal investor is Tesla. It's the only one that's public. So it's this thing where anytime a bot company makes waves out there, it's actually very good news for Tesla. That means people are realizing how big this opportunity is. And I think there's an argument to be made that the humanoid bot opportunity is the single largest opportunity that's ever happened in history, and it's happening in your lifetime at this time right now. And even Jensen Huang will tell you, if you don't want to listen to Tesla and others, physical AI is the name of the game, right? So AI, everybody understands AI is going to be massive. It's already disrupting industries. Physical AI is even bigger than just general AI. And that's hard to fathom. But Tesla is the leader in physical AI with both cars and bots, and they're public. So, you know what I mean? It's like, what will the world look like in 20 years from now? And who will have a big sizable market in that space? And who's actually going to make the most return on investment fastest? And it's Tesla. So it's like,
what else? Well, what else more do you want? Jeez, no, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's
so
absolutely insane.
My conviction in Tesla has moved way beyond just cars, and then way beyond just robotaxi, and it really is the bot. And so everything that they do to show you bot progress. Now, one of the complaints people have is that Tesla's not showing you a lot, and it's been a while since we've seen a demo. The thing is, they don't need to. They do not need to, and they should not do this. When you're the leader, you don't show off. Now, if you're the second player or the third player, you want to go out every week showing everybody what your progress is. But if you're number one, you stay quiet, you don't need it. And then when it comes time, it's like, show me 2,000 bots. So what's the likelihood that Tesla's going to have more than 2,000 bots by the end of this year? Maybe even 5,000 bots, right?
Yeah.
That's what we need to keep our eye closely on. If that happens, I don't honestly, it's crazy. I mean, we're talking this year. So
mind-blowing.
Yeah, maybe we get another year or 2 years. But this is each bot is hundreds of thousands, over $100,000 per year as a price point by customers. Like they'll pay that much. So not just a car, which I'm paying you 7,000 per one time. This is 100,000
Orders of
plus
magnitude.
per year for years, until of course there's so many bots out there that then the price points go down. But at the very beginning, we're talking that amount. So this is, you'll never ever see this again in your lifetime. I mean, you can't say things like that, right? But I mean, it's like it's nothing has been done like this before. So it's happening in our lifetime right here in front of us. So
It's crazy. This is why I can't comprehend it. This is why, like, my main conviction towards Tesla is just the robo taxis and full self driving. The
Yeah.
bot. I mean, what you just said blew my mind. I'll just say that. But that's incredible. That's incredible. And despite all the research, and I've had CERN on the channel several times, he's always telling me that the bot is
yeah.
orders of magnitude much bigger than the robo taxis, and I'm just like, I don't argue. It's just it's hard for me to comprehend it because it's just
Take a look at his
market.
take a look at his graph where he shows when robo taxi and when
Yeah.
bot, and you'll see that he and I debate this quite a bit. But basically, even if he's correct, yes, robo taxi shows up first. Bot quickly just surpasses it by 2027, 28. And so, like, I actually think that the bot production, like you said earlier, is going to be so much faster. So there's a lot of unknowns, right? There's this, is it the software? Is it the hardware? And I think James Thelma just came out today saying that the hardware is not settled yet because you want it to be as human-like as possible. So there's a lot of work to get it to become this generalized humanoid robot. So what the work I want to do with CERN is actually lay out the beyond pick and place, how big of a market is pick and place, how many robots can fill that space, and then what's the next one that is doable beyond pick and place, but not quite yet, needing the dexterity of the fingers and the hands and all these things. And the key thing for Tesla to prove to you is like, how long can an actuator last? So there was this one bot manufacturer I interviewed, and they said that their actuators only last for 6 months. Because at the time, like you keep moving the arm and they're carrying things and then the thing breaks. So they need to build the hardware so that it can last for years like a human body can.
Yes.
Still doing the physical work. So that's where we don't know these things yet. But it's anyway, so that's the thesis is it's so big of a market that it's worth investing in, even if I'm wrong. So
that's incredible. That's
yeah.
No, that's a good study. I'll be looking forward to that video to see what CERN will come up with. That's a very curious study that I want to see. But sheesh. So we're running out of time. I have 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get it this time in time. The first question is I know we talked before we did recording, you don't do price targets, but what is your 2030, 2035 guesstimation for Tesla stock?
I don't do price targets. And so a lot of people assume that I do because I do so many shows. And then whenever they hear a guest say something, they say, oh, you're the one that said that. I don't do that. I don't know what the stock will do this year, next year. I don't try to guess. I think one time somebody pressured me onto it and I said, well, okay, if you really want to pressure me, then I'll just take the car value, guesstimate that based on percentage of growth that might be, let's say 30%. And that for sure, earnings will go up that much. And therefore you can do that. I'm not going to guesstimate when is the robotaxi, and I do a lot of work with CERN and others, many others. I've got many of them, done many kind of analysis. I just don't, those are so much unknowns. But what is not an unknown to me is that in 5 years, long term, as we've been saying, Tesla is going to innovate and they're going to roll out robotaxi. It will be adopted globally. You will have robots. It will be adopted globally. And every single day, these thesis is being proved out to be correct. That there's nothing I'm finding at this point that says, nope, bots are impossible, won't happen in my... Every time, by the way, I'm sure you heard it. Everybody many people I talk to, like people I sit in a plane with, my family, they will say the words, never in my lifetime. I will never see a car drive itself in my lifetime. I'll never see a humanoid bot in my lifetime. Then they change it. Oh, it won't happen. It'll happen, but it'll be 10 years. Then they change it. Oh, well, it's years away.
Yes.
But right now it's moving that direction. So What's my price target? I don't have an actual number, but I'll stick with Kathy Wood. I'll stay with her. She says $2,600 in 2030. Elon has repeatedly said that he believes those are the right numbers. And I actually do agree with Elon's crazy valuation numbers of, Tesla being worth trillions of dollars in, 5-10 years. Or that, he said a whole sorts of things, right? He said it's the most, it's going to be the largest company. So first of all, yes, Tesla's going to be the largest company in the world.
Yes.
Even bigger than NVIDIA and others. That for sure. I don't know when, but it will happen because it's all moving. Everybody's all growing up as well. Then this idea that Tesla will be larger than the top 5 companies. Yes, that's going to happen. Why? There's no one else doing humanoid robots. No one else that can manufacture humanoid robots. So if that happens, then like I say, it's not like there's no debate in my mind that'll be that big. I don't know the actual numbers. I don't know the actual date, but long term, I just have a thesis.
That's a good
humanoid bots. Yeah.
That's a good number. That's a good number. When I run my numbers, my price target for 2030 is a little over 3,000, and others are saying it could be as high as 11,000, and I'm just like, whoa, okay, let's relax on that a little bit. But they're saying that, but I think 3,000 in 2030 or around, or 2,600, what Kathy was saying, does make sense when you have the robotaxis, FSD bots going. It makes sense.
She just does FSD, by the way, or sorry, robotaxi only.
Robotaxis.
She does not include human robots. And
Yeah.
so that's why her 2,600 number is just human robotaxi. And I disagree there, right? I think that humanoid they're just being a lot more conservative. But I think to be conservative, I personally actually think that robots is more conservative than robotaxi. And that's where the difference in thesis is.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. Sheesh. The last question I have here for you, Herbert, is, so you interview so many people. I mean, Jeff Lutz, Alexandria, CERN, other cool guests, CEOs, top executives of hedge funds. On the topic of Tesla and humanoid robots and FSD, all that, what is the one thing, if you had to put them all in like one sentence or in one bottle, what is the one thing that they all say?
It is interesting. Like, people always ask me, why aren't you interviewing people who are Tesla bears, Tesla Qs? And I'm very open to talking to somebody. It's just that if you are a Tesla Q that's coming and saying things that have no basis on reality, and it's clear that you're emotional or whatever it is, there's no point talking to you. But if you find me a Tesla Q, a Tesla bear that is real, like actually has real, facts, like maybe they'll say China is about to dump Tesla. Okay, well, show me some actual facts. If you can show me some facts, then great, let's have you on. I want to hear that, because that's part of our thesis. We want to know. But I think that the people I bring on, we're talking about the future, and we're talking about the ability that these innovations can actually happen. How big, if it happens, how big the market is, how likely can these technologies actually happen, and then who's going to win it, like which competitors are there or not, comparing them. So at the end of the day, I like talking to people who believe in tech, who are tech forward people who can evaluate whether or not technology is going to succeed or not. And that's anybody who can talk about business models or in tech. And by the way, Tesla's business models are brilliant. We should do a whole show on just that. Getting their customers to pay for the FSD, like, what? How did that happen? And but they did it, right? So,
Sheesh. Amazing. No, amazing. Yeah. Wow. No, that's a sheesh moment. That's all I have to say. Sheesh flipping moment. Over an hour into this, and really appreciate you, Herbert, coming on. Is there any last remarks you want to say before we end off this awesome interview podcast?
No, thank you so much, Pejjy. I appreciate you. Conviction is really hard, like you said, and we don't have to rah-rah. There's no need to try to pump anything. This is just about take a look at the product, take a look at the business model, take a look at the company, and have fun. If you enjoy these things, I do, and robotics is the biggest thing it's happening in the world. You should probably want to study that and learn it, regardless if you're invested or not. But it's the most important thing. So that's what we're doing. So I'm glad that you're doing it too at such a young age, and you're right at the right moment, at the right time, in the right place, and this is all happening right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks. I guess I'm an opportunist. I've always, when I turned 18, I've always wanted to like invest because I don't want to work when I'm 50 or 60. You know, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And somehow I got into this Tesla field in 2020, and ever since then, it's just been fun following the company, following the
If
stock,
it's fun
and following
from
the whole
2020
thing.
to 2024, you're gonna have a blast from the rest time from this on once these innovations actually are implemented.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's happening.
I cannot wait.
Yep.
Sheesh. Thank you, Herbert, for coming on.
Thank
I
you.
really
Thanks,
appreciate
Pejjy.
it. Everyone
That's
who's
fun.
watching this, I recommend you guys to follow Herbert on X and on YouTube. Very active. He posts like 3 videos a day with different interviews and with awesome guests. So I highly recommend it. Links in the description. So thank you, Herbert, so much. And
Yes.
I shall see, or maybe we'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.